We arrived in Stanley, Idaho on the 22nd of May, expecting to be there through mid-September. Our time was destined to be cut short, but that is a story for later. The Stanley Ranger Station for the Sawtooth National Forest, located in the valley between the Sawtooth and White Cloud ranges, would be our home, and we had the time to set up our trailer and make our site comfortable, as well as taking some exploring time before our training would begin on the 25th. Shortly after arriving, we were hit by a late-season snowfall. Our first excursion took us up and over Galena Pass, toward the towns of Ketchum, Haley, and Sun Valley. The view from the Frank Church overlook of the valley between Galena and the Sawtooths was spectacular. Our duties while working would be varied, and the training would be quite extensive. For 2 weeks, we had a combination of classroom work as well as a lot of field trips. Chari and I were the only volunteer couple. Lynn was our boss and Alicia was her assistant. Alicia's husband Jeff was also a volunteer, but worked mostly on various projects. The rest, Azalee, Morgan, Jenna, Cush, and Heath, were late teens, early 20s, naturalist or historian interns, working towards a career in their field. Day 1 was all classroom talks, getting to know each other, completion of paperwork, getting uniform shirts and jackets, and various other housekeeping chores. On the second day, we were off to various locations throughout the Sawtooth National Recreation Area, including talks by a Shoshone-Bannock representative who spoke about the sockeye salmon. Redfish Lake was named for the sockeye that traveled 900 miles from the ocean and gained more than 6,500 feet in elevation to spawn. Historically, they returned in the tens of thousands. A single salmon returned in 1992, Lonesome Larry. 17 returned in 2019. In 2023, 31 wild and 143 hatchery fish returned. The long-term restoration goal is 9,000. That may be a long way off.
Sum it all up at the end. Okay? So let's go around. Yeah, it's nice to know where everybody's from.
Steve, my wife Chari, we're full-time RVers, originally from New York State. Last real home was North Carolina, and we're in our 13th year of RVing. We've been volunteering in various places for, I guess, 11 years.
Nice.
We'll stay a season and move on, do something else, someplace else.
Last 2 years at Bonneville Dam.
Okay.
Yes. So we've got
Very good.
we've got a perspective here
Good.
of where they enter the system, then the first fish ladder, to where they actually wind up.
Fine.
So we've got a pretty wide perspective here, and we're going to learn a lot of what goes on at this end.
Yeah. Awesome. Great.
My name is Azalee. I'm from Northern California, and this is my first seasonal position. I'll be working as a historic specialist.
Cool.
So she'll be in the museum most of the time. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm Alicia. I'm originally from Oklahoma. I've been to the Sawtooths once before in 2014, but this is my husband and I, our first season staying here at length. Yeah.
Right on. Very good.
I'm Heath. I'm from Boise. I was here last summer,
Yep.
actually. Yeah. So,
Yeah, very good.
yeah, I'm going to be going to BSU in the fall for
Very
applied
good.
environmental science.
Awesome.
Morgan. I'm from North Idaho, around Moscow.
Okay.
I'm also a historic specialist working in the museum.
All right, very good.
My name's Jenna. I'm from upstate New York. I'll be a sophomore next year studying fisheries and wildlife conservation.
All right.
So I'm a naturalist here.
Cool. Very good.
I'm Kush. I'm from Florida, but I was born in Maryland, but Floridian, people ask me more questions. And I'm up here as a naturalist for the summer. Never been this far out west. So.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
Guess he knows you.
Yeah.
I'm Jeff. I'm originally from Maine, and I'm volunteering to stay in the redfish cabin this summer.
Because
Right.
he's with me.
Nice, very good. Very cool. So, interesting, good. So, good landscape. So, we've got some west, as far as west you can go, except for, say, white. We got some far east, which is very cool. And it lands here in Idaho. So,
On another day, we went to the gold fields on the Yankee Fork River, first to the ghost town of Custer City. Custer was founded in 1879, but was a ghost town by 1910. Then we went on to the Yankee Fork Dredge, an amazing contraption that dug its way along the banks of the stream, pulling up gravel and pumping up water to wash out the gold. A gold panning placer miner on steroids. The dredge, weighing almost 1,000 tons, took 5 months to build in place and operated from 1940 to 1952, pausing during World War II. Our tour guide on the dredge was the son of one of the people that worked on it for several years. While the mill was under construction, packers brought in a flywheel for the Corliss steam engine that measured 10 feet in diameter with a 10-inch rim. To perform this feat, the wheel was packed in 2 sections, each half being slung between 6 mules. On the trail, a storm came up, and lightning struck one half of the wheel and killed all 6 mules. 6 more mules were hurried to the scene. The wheel reslung, and the trip was made without further mishap. We did a walking history tour through town with a local historian and CIHA board member, Gary Gadwa. One of our work assignments was to write blog entries for the CIHA website. These would be posted much later, probably autumn or winter, and I thought a series of short videos called Memories of a Summer Volunteer would work. I completed one about one of our training exercises before our season was curtailed. The memories of our summer in the Sawtooths began in late May, with 2 weeks of intensive training, a combination of classroom lectures, field trips, and activities such as horseback riding and rafting the Salmon River. One field trip was taking a boat ride on Redfish Lake to the Redfish Inlet trailhead, learning about setting up a portal to meet with hikers and be sure they're aware of regulations for hiking in a wilderness area, things for the safety of visitors as well as limiting human impact, such as the size of groups allowed in the wilderness, being bear aware, how to deal with human waste, and the do's and don'ts of campfires. While there, we'd be taking a short hike ourselves to Lily Pond and a bit farther to a magnificent waterfall. We boarded our boat at the marina and cruised to the south end of the lake. As we rounded the last turn toward our dock at the inlet, one of the most outstanding views from the lake opened up, the U-shaped valley between Hayburn Mountain and Grand Mogul, showing clear evidence of being carved out by glaciers. After an introductory talk, we began our hike. We staggered our start by a few minutes, so that although part of a group, we'd experience the hike up to Lily Pond in solitude, using our senses to smell the smells of the forest, hear the sounds of the breeze or chirping birds, and see the trees, the rocks, the beautiful natural world. Sometimes the mountains would play hide and seek, offering a brief glimpse through the trees and then suddenly bursting through in their glory. Occasionally, I'd catch a glimpse of Chari ahead of me and slow down or stop for a moment to allow more space between us, again, giving me the opportunity to observe. All too soon I arrived at Lily Pond, where my companions were sitting in silence, taking in the simple yet wonderful view. I found a spot and did the same. After a while we got up to continue our hike to the falls of Redfish Inlet, and again paused to take in the splendor. Again, all too soon, it was time to leave. This was a training exercise after all, not an all-day adventure. We'd have plenty of time for that on our time off during the summer. Before boarding our boat, we heard a rushing distant roar and looked up to see a rock slide across the valley. This would be the beginning of a wonderful summer. Another day we did an auto tour of Stanley Basin with Forest Ranger Megan, which included a drive on Nip and Tuck Road, an absolutely beautiful drive Chari and I planned on doing often. We were able to do it twice more. We saw the cabin still standing of Dr. Day from the early 1900s. Morgan, studying archaeology in school, got very excited at the ruins of a miner's cabin, where she was able to date the location by observing the construction method of the tin cans found in the dump. We were able to participate in a couple of tourist activities, so we'd be able to talk about them to visitors. One of these was a raft trip on the Salmon River, which included some Class 3 rapids. Actually, riding those rapids required all hands on the paddles, so unfortunately these videos only show the milder parts of the float down the river. A few of us chose to take advantage of a horseback ride, with terrific views of Little Redfish Lake and the surrounding mountains.
I know you did. That's what I was like, wait, I gotta
We are above Little Redfish. We got the whole crew. We got Jackson, Peaches, June, Archer, and Hollister.
Up here.
Yeah.
On another field trip, we met with a forest ranger and learned that while European and Eastern North American forests have a wide diversity of species, Western forests do not. In its earlier days, the Forest Service relied on European-trained foresters to establish management practices, with some unfortunate consequences. One of the things learned is that trees of different ages have different characteristics, and modern management leans towards age diversity rather than species diversity. An older tree retains more carbon dioxide than a younger tree. A younger tree is more resistant to insect infestations. A mixed-age forest has various canopy heights and different amounts of sunlight reaching the forest floor. Older trees are more susceptible to windfall and storms. A mixed-age forest is less likely to suffer sudden catastrophic damage from fires. Mixed-age forests provide a mixed bag of habitats for wildlife. We also discussed how fighting fires has changed in recent years. The policy of 100 years ago or so of putting out any fires has resulted in very unhealthy forests. A normal amount of dead wood lying on the forest floor is about 4 tons per acre. Today, since this debris has been allowed to accumulate, many places have an excess of 24 tons of dead wood, also known as fuel, lying on the forest floor. Forest management is an evolving science, and the talk was very interesting and informative. The Stanley Chamber of Commerce sponsored a cocktail hour with hors d'oeuvres at the Idaho Rocky Mountain Ranch, a high-end local lodge and restaurant, to celebrate the beginning of the summer season, and we were invited. We got to meet many of the local who's who and had some delicious food. On May 31st, we celebrated Morgan's 19th birthday with her favorite, sherry-baked and apple pie.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Morgan. Happy birthday to you. Yay!
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Part of our training took us to the Sunbeam Dam, constructed in 1909 and 1910 to provide power for a mill at the Sunbeam Consolidated Gold Mines Company. The mine wasn't successful and ceased operation in 1911. Eventually, the fish ladders fell into disrepair and the bank alongside the dam was dynamited in 1934 to allow fish passage. A local CCC camp in the 1930s ran a pipe from nearby hot springs to the Salmon River here to cool it, and then ran it back to their bathhouse at the perfect temperature. We practiced setting up the tent and table for our trailhead portals to advise visitors on wilderness hiking, giving them the Bears Poop Fire Talk, being bear aware, how to deal with human waste, and campfire protocol. The Stanley Museum is part of CHA's domain and is housed in the original Stanley Ranger Station. It has numerous artifacts from the old days. The Pole Creek Guard Station, built in 1909 by one of the first rangers, called guards in the old days, in the Sawtooth National Forest, Bill Horton, is the oldest building in the forest. Horton kept a diary during his 1908 to 1929 career, writing about routine tasks such as offering first aid to a fellow guard and fire suppression. September 11th, 1915, Guards Gilman and Coulter left here to work on the fire line and Redfish Lake Trail, rode up Sheep Trail to foot of Summit, saw one band of Bill Newman's sheep going to Stanley to pasture, saw a smoke on Jackson's Reserve, rode up there and found a fire. Someone had camped there and left their fire and the wind carried it to a bunch of spruce timber. Rode back to Newman's camp and got a bucket and shovel and went back, dug a trench around the fire and packed water and smothered it out. It burned about 2 rods square and burned about 3 big spruce trees. Think it was a hunting party that left their fire, as there were chicken feathers around the camp and automobile tracks. Think I have it all out, as I cannot see any smoke, but we'll go back in the morning. Grazing, 2 hours. Fire suppression, 7 hours. Today, as then, many forest fires are started by careless campers. On one of our days off, Sherry and I took a drive up 4th of July Creek Road, named for the fact that the headwaters of the creek are seldom free of snow cover before the 4th of July. We found a situation of exactly what we warned campers against, using large pieces of wood much bigger than the fire rings and not contained. Every year, countless acres of forest are destroyed and firefighters injured due to idiot campers. And who wants to go camping in a beautiful natural setting and be greeted by this? Come on, people. If you can carry it in, carry it out. On another day, we hiked Fishhook Creek Trail, crossing the boundary into the wilderness area. At the wilderness area boundary, regulations for hiking and camping get stricter, and filling out a permit is required. The Forest Service gets funding for trail maintenance based on the number of people actually using the area, so it's important to comply. Once past the boundary, the area opened up into the pages of National Geographic. On another day, we drove about 20 miles to paddle Alturas Lake.